The smell of smoke, grilled corn, and laughter still lingered in the evening air when my neighbor quietly stopped me before I stepped back inside my house. Everyone else had already begun packing their folding chairs, children were chasing fireflies across the yards, and the last golden rays of sunlight painted everything in warm shades of amber. She looked around as though making sure no one was watching, slipped a folded note into my hand, and with cheeks turning bright red whispered that it had to stay between us. I watched her hurry away without looking back, my heart suddenly racing for reasons I couldn't explain. I had no idea that the few words written inside that small piece of paper would change not only her future but mine as well. Before we continue this emotional journey, welcome to Ripple of Kindness, Second Chances. If stories about compassion, hope, and unexpected friendships inspire you, we'd love to have you with us on every journey. I stood alone on my porch staring at the folded paper for several minutes before gathering the courage to open it. The handwriting was careful but slightly shaky, as though every word had been written through tears. The note simply asked me not to tell anyone what I was about to learn. She explained that she had recently lost her job, her savings had disappeared paying medical bills for her younger sister, and the bank was preparing to take away the little house she had worked years to buy. She wasn't asking for money. She wasn't asking for pity. She only asked if I knew of any work because she was terrified that the smiling face everyone saw at neighborhood gatherings was slowly falling apart behind closed doors. I folded the note again, feeling ashamed of myself. For nearly 3 years she had lived across the street, always waving, always bringing homemade cookies during Christmas, always smiling during neighborhood events. Like everyone else, I had assumed she had a peaceful life simply because she smiled so easily. That evening reminded me how often people hide their deepest pain behind their brightest expressions. The following morning I knocked on her door carrying 2 cups of coffee. She opened it looking exhausted, her eyes swollen from crying despite her attempt to hide it. Her home looked spotless, but it felt strangely empty. Several pieces of furniture were missing. Family photographs had disappeared from the walls, leaving faded outlines where they once hung. She admitted she had quietly sold almost everything valuable to keep paying the mortgage. Even then it wasn't enough. I owned a small landscaping business that had recently begun expanding. Business had become busier than I could manage alone, and finding dependable workers had become nearly impossible. I asked whether she would consider helping with scheduling, customer calls, and bookkeeping until she found something better. At first she refused because she believed accepting help would make her look weak. I told her strength wasn't pretending everything was perfect. Real strength meant accepting a hand when life became too heavy to carry alone. She agreed to start the following Monday. The first few weeks weren't easy. She hadn't worked in landscaping before, and learning the business required patience. She made mistakes, misplaced appointments, and constantly apologized. Yet every evening she stayed late correcting every error before going home. Slowly our customers began complimenting how organized everything had become. Missed appointments disappeared. New clients kept arriving through referrals. The business grew faster than I ever imagined possible. Still, something about her smile remained incomplete. Every afternoon she hurried home before sunset without explanation. One rainy evening I accidentally discovered why. After finishing work earlier than expected, I drove past her house and noticed lights glowing inside the garage. Curious, I knocked gently. When she opened the garage door, I found dozens of donated blankets neatly stacked beside shelves filled with canned food, children's clothing, diapers, and hygiene supplies. She looked embarrassed, believing I would think she was hiding something. Instead, she quietly confessed that every Friday night she prepared care packages for struggling families throughout the city. She had started years earlier after watching her own mother depend on strangers during difficult times. Even while facing foreclosure herself, she refused to stop helping others because she knew exactly how hopeless desperation felt. Standing there among those carefully packed boxes, I realized the woman who believed she had nothing left was still giving away everything she possibly could. That discovery changed me. Instead of keeping her secret alone, I searched for a way to protect it while helping without exposing her pride. I spoke privately with trusted friends from the neighborhood, never revealing her name. Together we organized anonymous donations that mysteriously appeared outside her garage every Thursday evening. More food arrived. More blankets appeared. Children's backpacks filled with school supplies multiplied week after week. She often wondered aloud where the generosity came from. I simply smiled and reminded her that kindness has a way of finding people who create it. Months passed. Our business continued growing beyond anything I had imagined. Eventually I promoted her to office manager. Her confidence slowly returned. The tiredness disappeared from her face. The foreclosure notices stopped arriving. One sunny afternoon she walked into my office holding a sealed envelope with tears in her eyes. She had made the final payment needed to save her home. Neither of us said much. Some victories are too meaningful for words. We simply stood there smiling while years of fear quietly drifted away. The following summer our neighborhood hosted another annual barbecue. It looked almost identical to the previous year's gathering, yet everything somehow felt different. Children laughed beneath colorful balloons. Music floated through the evening breeze. Friends shared homemade desserts while neighbors exchanged stories beneath glowing patio lights. Toward the end of the evening, several families unexpectedly gathered everyone's attention. One after another they began sharing stories of anonymous care packages that had helped them survive impossible seasons. A widowed father described receiving diapers when he couldn't afford them. An elderly couple spoke about warm blankets that had arrived during winter. A single mother admitted anonymous grocery bags had kept food on her table after losing her job. No one knew who had started the quiet tradition. Except me. I looked across the yard and saw tears quietly streaming down my neighbor's face. She still believed nobody recognized the countless evenings she had spent serving strangers. Then something beautiful happened. One by one, neighbors walked toward her carrying handwritten thank you notes. Somehow they had all discovered the truth during the past year without anyone betraying her confidence. Instead of exposing her struggle, they chose to celebrate her kindness. The woman who once feared losing everything found herself surrounded by dozens of grateful people whose lives she had touched. She cried openly, not from embarrassment but from relief. For the first time she understood that accepting love from others did not erase her independence. It completed it. Watching that moment unfold reminded me that life isn't measured by the size of our houses, our bank accounts, or the number of successful days we experience. It is measured by the quiet moments when one person's compassion gives another person enough hope to keep going. If this story has touched your heart, please share in the comments about a small act of kindness that changed your life. Your story may become the encouragement someone else desperately needs today. As the evening came to an end, she walked over to me holding another folded note. This time I opened it immediately. Inside were only 7 simple words that carried more meaning than any speech ever could. Thank you for believing in me first. I still keep that note tucked safely inside my desk drawer. Whenever life feels overwhelming or the world seems filled with too much division, I unfold those words and remember that the greatest changes rarely begin with grand gestures. They begin with ordinary people choosing kindness when no one else is watching. And perhaps that's the greatest secret of all. Sometimes the smallest note, handed over after an ordinary neighborhood barbecue, becomes the beginning of someone else's second chance, and in helping them find hope, you discover your own.